nice thing to do is whatever you have with a towel or a blanket is just to do the rolled one where you lie back and just like right under the shoulder blades for a little bit of chest opening. You can have the feet on the floor or you can extend them long. So whatever works for you. So you've got, breathing practice you can do here. And with the knees bent, it allows more of the lower back on the floor. If you extend the legs long, you just get a sort of different position. Or if you flex the feet and press the feet out, that gives you something else, more leg work. So whichever version works for you, you can start off that way. And just let the breath, when you take long exhales, when you get to the bottom of the exhale, you can take that little pause and press the last little bit of air out of the lungs. Then you can slowly bring an inhale up and then pause at the top, and then either do a few rounds of that or you can do some normal breaths in between. So however that works for you. So do a few rounds of that to let the body just settle into the pose. And also just connecting with the breath. In your case, it's morning, so you can be, sort of getting the engines going for the day. For me, it's the late afternoon, so this is when, trying to stretch out at the end of the day. There might be a little more heat in the body towards the end of the day. And often that image of the tide is useful. Although tides do take a little pause. So when you press the last little bit of air out of the lungs, that's a bit of a pause. And when you breathe up to the top, and that's a bit of a pause. So you can imagine the tide rolling in when you take the breath in, and it comes up and there's a pause at the top, and you can imagine the tide rolling out when you take that long, slow exhale. It's going back into the sea and taking a little pause there. Lovely thing about waves on the beach is they have this continuousness to them. So as one wave is coming in, another wave or two waves are starting in the back. So, it's sort of a continuous process as they roll in shore. And then slowly begin to just release that practice and have a couple of normal breaths. And then you can slowly just roll a little bit to your side to take the blanket away and come back to lying on your mat. We haven't done this in a while, so this would be a good idea to do. Lying on your back, extend the legs out, and I've got my thumb on my lower rib and one of my middle finger sort of on those front hip bones, just to, notice that relationship. So you're just gonna slide the right foot in, and then you have a breath, leave it standing, and then you slowly slide it out. Might get a little caught on the mat. It's really nice to do this on a wood floor. And then you slide the left foot up, and you really, it's like the foot lands into that heel bone and it connects into the sit bone. So it's a very effortless movement. And then you slide it out again. And then slide the right foot and just leave it there. And slide the left foot in and leave it there. And just notice as your feet are on the floor, your knees are bent, see if you can feel if the hips and the ribs, lower ribs, feel sort of an equal relationship. Maybe one finger feels pressed long, maybe another. So you can do a little wiggling here to see if you can just balance that out. And then you can bring the hands down, or you can interlock them under your head and begin to bend the knees in, extend the heels up, and bend the knees in, press it down. So whichever way you want your hands or your arm position, bend the knees in, straighten the legs up, bend the knees, place them down. So you really want to feel into that whole core area as you're doing this. And you can either have, you know, the arms down under the head, or if you want more challenge, you can always bring them overhead, or like in the old days when we had blocks, we could, especially these more heavy blocks, as you could really hold them in your hands, get a bit more work in the arms as you did this pose. So there's lots of options for this. And then do two more like that. And then either just leave the feet on the floor, or you can extend the legs long and just have, either way, you're just trying to soften the whole abdominal region. So in yoga, you know, we try to engage the muscles for the poses, and then we also try to release other muscles of the pose. So now with your feet on the floor, here come the helicopters. Out for training. Take that right leg and wrap it around your left if you can. It's easier to do it on the floor, I find, because I can move my legs around to find that wrap around. And to start with, see if you can really feel like you're sort of pressing the sides of the legs together and the inner thighs together, so that you can really squeeze in here. If you have any knee issues, of course, be gentle. And then if you can bring the right elbow onto the left, we'll do a couple of these sit-ups through eagle pose. So when you come up, you're bringing the knees and the elbows to each other. And then when you exhale and come down, a really nice stretch, especially, is to lift the hands away. And I know, Richard, with your shoulder, you can just bring the elbows crossed over like this. So however works for you, do the best you can. So we'll just do 4 on each side. And I know I'm getting a good stretch between my shoulder blades when I lift the elbows up. Bring the knee, elbows to each other. Inhale down, extend, hands away, or just how you have your arms. And then exhale, one more, and then extend away. And then release that side. So I could feel quite a good stretch between my shoulder blades in that pose. And then wrap the left leg around the right. And again, you can squeeze the legs here because the hips should be pretty evenly placed on the floor. Sometimes when we try to do this standing, it's more difficult. And then left elbow comes under the right, and you can keep that, you know, crossover, or you bring the hands together, and then you inhale, come up, or exhale when you come up. And when you inhale, you come down and you really lift the arms away to stretch between the shoulder blades, and then exhale, knee and elbows towards each other. Inhale down, or exhale down. Exhale up. Inhale down. And then one more. Exhale up. Inhale down. And then just release that, and you can place the feet on the floor and just shake out the hips a little bit. And then you can roll to your side and slowly come up. And then we'll come into a plank pose or half plank pose, just to do a little bit more with our abdominal stuff. So you've got the toes tucked under, you got the elbows and the forearms down, and you can tuck the toes under and then lift, and it's so you don't lift the hips too high. You're trying to come like a surfboard or something. And then if you want a little bit more work, which your hips might come up in this pose, but you bring the knee towards the front, and then you extend that leg long, bring the other knee, extend long, and then bring the knees down, keep the toes tucked, and bring those hands forward. And you can drop the armpits and the head down, or maybe the head and the chest, whatever touches the floor, and get that stretch in the upper body. And we'll do one more of those where you come onto your forearms, extend the legs long behind you. That's another way to go into it, is coming from the knees. You extend one leg back, tuck the toes, extend the other leg back, tuck the toes. And then you bring one knee in, and release that, and then bring the other knee in, and release that, and then bring the knees down. Keep the toes tucked, and one more stretch like this. So the sit bones are up as you press the chest towards the floor. And then you can come up to all fours and tuck the toes under and come into a downward facing dog. You can start to stretch out the legs, getting a little bit of energy through the calves, the heels, stretching out the backs of the legs. And then you can bend the knees, really press the armpits towards the floor, and then slowly straighten the legs. then bring the knees down and go into big toes together, knees wide. You're trying to bring those sit bones towards the heel and keep that length in the spine. I was always taught about really pressing through the hands and engaging the arms. And we sort of do poses in different ways for different purposes. And then inhale again, coming up and tucking the toes under and go into downward facing. A couple of breaths there. And then slowly walk the feet and the hands towards each other. And then you can slowly roll your spine up as you begin to straighten the legs. Yeah, there we go. Now I can see myself. So have the feet, hip width. So they're under your shoulders, and have the arms down to your side. What we're trying to do is imagine we have a ball or an orange. I don't know why somebody used to say oranges. Maybe it was the side of the orange, and maybe it was how cool they were under your armpits, so that it's not like your armpits are squeezed in. And then you're trying to feel length through the little finger and the thumb side, so that there's a little bit of activation, but it's not like rigid and stiff. And then just soften the knees and rock a little back and forward on your feet, so you can feel where the weight is on your heels and your toes. And then come back to where you can lift the toes, so you can feel your side of your foot, your heels, your arches, and then see if you can soften those toes down on the mat. And then we're going to play a little bit with Utkatasana today. So just inhale the arms up to Urdhva Hastasana, and then exhale into Utkatasana, powerful pose. A couple of breaths here. Inhale up, exhale down, and inhale the arms up, exhale into Utkatasana, powerful pose, and inhale up, exhale down. For the next one, just bring the hands into Namaste, into prayer position. And we'll exhale into Utkatasana, so then the work all has to be in the legs, so you're not using the arms so much right here. And as you bend, take your, I don't know if I should do the opposite, but you take your right hand to your left thigh. And then just notice whether one knee wants to come forward. So you're trying to keep everything parallel, and then do a little bit of a twist. If it's in the too hard basket, you can always lay the arm there and do it that way, or the hands on the thigh. So what you really want to do is engage those abdominals and get that stretch through the abdominals, pressing towards the thigh. And then come back into Utkatasana, into prayer pose. And then inhale, slowly come up. Release the hands for a breath. I can feel my heart rate go up. And then bring the hands into prayer position, Namaste again. And then bend the knees into Utkatasana, and take the left elbow over to the right side and come into the twist, just checking your knees out, really squeezing the abdominals in. And then bring the hands back and come up to standing and release the arms. And yeah, that should feel like, whoo, the heart rate's coming up. So then we'll do a little bit of standing poses from here and jumping out to the side, and then we'll put a couple of those poses together. So we'll bring the hands in front of the chest and we'll jump not too wide because we're going to pivot all the way around. I'll do the mirror image. So it's your right foot and your left foot is behind you and your arms are out to the side, and then bend deeply into warrior one pose. And if you want, you can bring them up higher and really bend deeply. And then inhale, slowly come up through the center, arms come back out to the side. And then we'll soften the knees to pivot around to the other side. So it'll be your left foot, and then bend down deeply. So the arms out to the side give us a little bit more stability. And then inhale the arms up into warrior one pose. And then inhale, slowly come up, bring the arms to your side. Feet are parallel, and then you can inch them closer, or you can jump back into Tadasana. A couple of breaths here. He just wants to stay here today. He's got his spot in the sun. And then bring the hands in front of you. Again, bend the knees, jumping wide. This time we'll go into warrior two pose. So it's the left foot toe to heel. And you're really pressing through the outside edge of the foot there. Right foot, heel to toe. And then you really skip your down into warrior two pose. Looking over the front fingers. And then slowly come up. Bring the feet parallel. And then the right foot is toe to heel, left foot heel to toe. And you extend through those arms and then bend deeply into warrior two, looking over the front hand. And slowly coming up, bring the feet parallel. You can inch them closer, or you can just jump back into Tadasana and have a couple of breaths there. So you're really slowing the heart rate down here. And also it's kind of a cleansing moment. You're releasing one pose to go into the next pose. So now bring the hands up and jump wide. We'll go into Parsvakonasana. So left foot toe to heel, right foot heel to toe. This time you bend deeply and place the forearm on the leg, and the other arm can stay down or up, or it can go into the full expression if your body is okay. So whatever you want to do with that arm. Parsvakonasana, side angle lateral pose. And then inhale, slowly come up. Bring the feet parallel. And then take the right foot toe to heel, left foot heel to toe. Bend deeply with the forearm, and you keep your arm here just to, if that feels right, or it can just come straight up or up and over. When it's up and over, you feel that connection from your right foot all the way out the right fingertips. And then inhale, slowly come up, arms wide, bringing the feet parallel, jumping or stepping back into Tadasana. And a couple of breaths there. And now we're going to put those poses together and add a little variation. So it's pretty easy to follow. So we'll start off through Warrior 1. So bring the hands in front of the chest, jumping wide. Now we'll pivot all the way around to the right side and bend that front leg. Back heel is up. Bring the arms up into Warrior 1 pose. Now to come into Warrior 2 from here, you need to extend that front leg, pivot that back heel down. You might need to bring the front leg a little further forward to bend down into Warrior 2 pose. And then extend the front leg again, drop the back hand and lift the front hand, opening that whole side body, and then bring forearm down into Parsvakonasana. And then inhale, slowly come up, bring the feet parallel, and then you pivot around to the other side. Bring that heel up, bend through the front leg. You can inhale the arms up. And then you straighten through that front leg, put that back heel down. You might need to scoot the front foot forward, coming into Warrior 2. Then straighten the front leg, drop the back arm into the variation here, and then bring the forearm into Parsvakonasana. And then inhale, slowly come up. Bring those feet parallel, inch them closer, and you can step or jump back into Tadasana for a couple of breaths there. Just letting that heart rate slow right down. So we'll start with, I think we'll start with plank and go into some side planks. Now, blocks are really fun for this if you have them, but if you don't have them, actually at home, stop it. At home, books work really well because they can be quite solid as long as they give you that evenness, but I just don't want to get bit by him. Yeah, no. So you can tuck the toes under and come into plank, and then we're going to do some side planks as a, just as reps, so that you move through plank, drop one foot down, come to side plank, just to warm the body up to the idea that you've got some strength in the body here. And then you can go down for a rest with big toes together, knees wide. The blocks are really nice for this, but without the blocks, it's fine too. A couple of breaths here. And then we'll come into the half side plank by placing the fist down or the forearm down. I probably should scoot down to the other side too. So the fist is nice because sometimes it gives you something to press into. If you need more options, you can place a foot behind you or in front of you, Or you can have both feet together and really lift that side body up. You don't want to be sinking down like this. You want to really lift that side body up. You hold it for a few breaths and then come to the other side where you are pressing that fist down, and you really work in the biceps and the shoulders rolling down, so you can really lift up, and then the arm can pull you up and then release down. And that's more like that seems to have more strength building in the side body than the full side plank. A lot more work in that one. And then come back to the blocks again, or if you have them, or just come to your hands. I guess I can do it both ways. And come back into the full plank again. And then inhale, come to one side. And you can hold it a couple of breaths, or you can just hold it for a breath, and then come back through the center. Come to the other side. Come back through the center. And do it again on both sides again. Again, you can always have the adapted pose with the foot in front or the foot behind. And then bring the knees down and go into big toes together. Knees wide, a couple of breaths here. And we'll do one more round, and you can hold it a little bit longer. So either you, again, if you don't have your blocks, you can set yourself up in all fours, and then you can extend one leg long. Stop it. I'm coming up further so I don't get in his way. So then you can tell that you're in good position with one foot and then the other. And then come over to one side. Maybe you can actually hold it for a couple of breaths. Come through the center again. The other side. And you can come through the center again. And this time, if you want to, you can just release it into a downward facing dog. And then come down. We'll do a little bit of sort of shoulder stretch. So you can either sit on your knees, you can bring in a blanket, and you can sit on the blanket, or you can sit on the block. So with the blanket, I just put it over my heels and sit like so. So whichever works for you. And since we did some abdominal work with earlier with Gurudasana, let's do Gurudasana arms. So take the right elbow under the left, and then you want space between your elbows and your chest, and then if you want to, you can lift them up a little bit, get a bit of stretch. Just make sure that your abdominals are still supporting here. Or you can just keep the elbows right straight in front away from the chest. And Richard, you can have them like this if this works for you better. And then release that side and bring the left under the right. And you can either be here, and if you're here, you can sometimes bring the hands back and get a bit of stretch this way. Otherwise, you can lift the elbows up, or just leave the elbows in front of the chest and release that. And then we'll take the left, let's do the right arm above. We'll hold the elbow, just try to keep it straight up for Gomukhasana arms. And then we'll swing the left hand behind. And if you can put it between your shoulder blades, great. If not, don't worry about it. You don't have to touch your hands. We're just trying to keep the space open in this front of this shoulder and having this elbow point up to the ceiling. And then release that. And then bring the left elbow up. So it's like you're holding like right below the elbow. Really lift that up. The hand can be the back of your neck or between your shoulder blades. And then you can take the other hand around, keeping this front of the shoulder open. And find the hand or not, or just bring it behind you, just for a good little stretch, because we were really working the arms there at the end. And then release that. And whatever your Shavasana is, you can use a chair to put your feet up. You can put a blanket under your hips, legs up on the couch or wherever you are. Or feet up the wall. If you've got a wall nearby, you can put your feet up the wall. If you do feet up the wall, it's always nice to have a little elevation under your hips. And then slowly begin to just let your breath become soft. Whatever part of your body is touching the ground, let gravity bring more of that, bring more weight into that area. It could be your shoulders, it could be your spine or your upper back or your lower back, wherever you are feeling connection into the ground, into the floor. And then see if you can soften from your knees all the way into that thigh socket as if it was a waterfall, so that the softness comes back down the thighs into that thigh socket. And it just creates a pool right there, a pool right in your thigh socket. Front, the side, the back of your pelvis is all softening. Front of the rib cage, sides of the rib cage, back of the rib cage softens. Upper chest, sternum area Collarbones, back of the shoulders, space between the shoulders, all softening. And then see if from your elbows you can feel big bone in your upper arms softening and pooling like it was a waterfall just into the shoulders, into the armpits, so the water pools there. Collarbone notches are softening. Your throat softens back to the neck. Your face is softening back to your ears and the back of the head. And then slowly begin to deepen your breath, bringing a little bit of movement into your fingers and toes. Maybe you take a big stretch in your body. And then slowly roll to your right side, coming up to sitting. Thanks for coming and joining me in Namaste.